Can you all hear me okay? Hello, can anyone hear me? Can anyone hear me yet?
Yes, we can hear you.
Are you sure if they can hear me, you can hear me, but they're not saying anything? I've said this like 5 times and no one over there said anything.
I don't know if they have their sound on yet, but I'll send them a note just to confirm. But yes, we can hear you.
Well, you should confirm. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation Board. Excuse me. With that, Wayne, please call the roll.
Senator Champion,
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
yes. Representative Davis,
Present.
Senator Eichhorn,
Present.
Senator Farnsworth, Senator Hoschild,
Here.
Representative Idle,
Present.
Representative Listenberg,
Present.
Representative Straba.
Present.
We have 7 members.
Thank you, Lorraine. With that, I would like to see a motion for the approval of the August 9th minutes. So moved. Motion by Representative Straba. I believe now we also have to, Lorraine, please take a roll on that.
Senator Champion,
I'm sorry. Sometimes it takes a minute for me to be able to unmute from here, but I'm present.
Representative Davis,
Yeah.
Senator Eichhorn,
Aye.
Senator Farnsworth, Senator Hoschild,
Aye.
Representative Eichel,
Aye.
Representative Listenberg,
Aye.
Representative Straba,
Present, yes, sorry.
We have 7 ayes and 1 excuse.
With that, the minutes are approved. With that, we'll move into our commissioner comments.
Thank you, Mayor Igo. Welcome to today's meeting of the Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation Board. At today's Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation Board meeting, more than $10 million in loans, $450,000 in infrastructure grants, and $1 million in trails grants will be presented for the board's recommendation. Agency investment for all projects combined is more than $11.6 million. Total project investment is approximately $75.6 million. The projects are expected to increase the regional tax base, retain and create new jobs, provide essential services, increase the housing inventory, and expand outdoor recreation. The loans are anticipated to create about 400 jobs. The infrastructure projects are projected to impact 7 jobs and create 17 construction jobs. One of the business loan projects being presented to the board today is a potential cannabis cultivation and manufacturing business that is considering locating its operations in northeastern Minnesota. The state of Minnesota authorizes 15 types of cannabis licenses, including for cannabis cultivators and manufacturers. The business called Highway 35 has been working with our agency's business development staff since this past spring. Following a site selection search of the agency's entire service area of available facilities of 70,000 square feet and above, the Voyager former Ainsworth site in Grand Rapids was identified by Highway 35 as the best fit based on the condition of the facility's newly upgraded industrial water sewer that was required, total acreage, and security considerations. The board will be asked today for their recommendation of a $10 million direct loan from the agency to support phase 1 of the project. The project will develop in 2 phases, and our business development staff will explain the project and each phase in greater detail. The cannabis operation is scheduled to be at full production capacity in the first quarter of 2025. And the Grand Rapids community supports this project moving forward and the economic development it can create. The Itasca County Board of Commissioners submitted a letter of support to the agency advocating for support of this project. In addition, we've received a resolution of support from the Grand Rapids EDA, the city, and the Chamber of Commerce. The Highway 35 project will create many benefits for Grand Rapids and for northeastern Minnesota. Regarding jobs, the cannabis industry will likely grow quickly in Minnesota, and as a result will create full-time jobs. There are a range of well-paying job options connected to the manufacturing of cannabis. Highway 35 is projected to create 400 new jobs, which include 200 in phase 1 and another 200 in phase 2. The average wage is $24 per hour with health, life, and options for dental, vision, and insurance. The annual salaries range from $40,000 to $160,000 per year. Positions include operators, technicians within the grow, production, quality, and supervisory teams. A manufacturing facility of this size and scope will greatly increase the tax revenue for Itasca County, Grand Rapids, and the surrounding area, benefiting the entire taconite assistance area. And the tax revenue will be invested back into those local communities. This agency was created over 80 years ago to diversify the economy of a region largely dependent on mining and timber. Cannabis manufacturing and cultivation helps achieve this goal. The cannabis industry is resource-based and centered on agriculture. Highway 35 is projected to expand the natural resource sector of our local economy. Serving in this role as commissioner, I'm dedicated to the people and the region and to supporting diversification in addition to mining. Today, we're talking about 200 to 400 new jobs. And along with the recent work of our team, we're seeing other large businesses continuing to hire workers as well. Haleen and Mountain Iron is putting out calls to hire around 400 new people this fall. Detroit Reman and Hibbing, with their recent expansion, is hiring 20 new employees, bringing their total to around 200 employees. Across the range, we're seeing demand for new workers. And with that means new families and a demand for housing as well, which is why it's so fitting that our agency is also contributing to the housing with $5 million this year alone. There is no reason that our region should not be thriving and vibrant. We have great schools in addition to our higher education institutions. We have family-friendly towns And our communities have a great standard of living, which we all know about, our beautiful amenities, our lakes, trails, fishing, and forests. Along with these new jobs and new housing come new families and thriving communities, and I'm thankful and excited for these opportunities to come. And I also just want to take the time to thank our staff that works in our business development and community development teams. Like they do with all projects that come before you as this board, they have taken the time and worked hard with the communities and businesses here today. And I'm thankful that they are dedicated to fulfilling the mission of our agency. For months, our staff has worked diligently to thoroughly vet the businesses before you. While we know that not everyone may agree with this type of industry, it is now legal in the state of Minnesota. This type of manufacturing, if it doesn't happen here, it is going to happen somewhere else in our state. And I fully believe that rural jobs matter and that everyone across the state of Minnesota, including the workers and communities on the Iron Range, should be able to benefit from this new industry. Regarding a different and exciting project on the horizon, the agency will also soon be announcing a new manufacturing business incentive program designed especially for the East Iron Range of northeastern Minnesota. The agency's business development staff is finalizing the details of a financial incentive-based program with the goal of attracting one or more new manufacturing businesses to the East Range. Incentivizing businesses to relocate here will facilitate economic and community growth and provide well-paying jobs. Out-of-state manufacturing businesses will be targeted to relocate here, and in-state manufacturing businesses will be targeted for expansions. Future details will come. So again, thank you for being here today. Thank you for working together to make northeastern Minnesota a better place to live and work.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there any questions or comments for the Commissioner report? I'll just echo our support. Thank you for those comments. I agree with a lot of what you said, so thank you for all the hard work and the agency as well. Thank you. And I guess with that, we'll move right into the next item on the agenda then.
And the slide you're seeing today is the investments that are being made across the range.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. With that, we'll move into the next item on the agenda, which is resolution number 24-007. Staff present will be Mr. Schoberg and Mr. Malish.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ryan Malish will be presenting this project.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, the first project on the agenda today is a $95,000 participation loan to Northern Expanding Industrial, doing business as a Remco of Grand Rapids. The Remco was formed in St. Louis Park, Minnesota in 1961 by Ralph Grimm. They produce gears and related components for the aerospace industry, which includes military, commercial, and private aircrafts. In 1999, the company was purchased and operations were relocated to Grand Rapids. Dave Henriksen purchased the company in 2021 and has seen a significant and steady increase in sales and demand. Aramco is seeking the purchase of a larger CNC mill to keep up with this growing demand and to expand their production capabilities to meet customer requests. The new machine uses the latest enhancements, which will allow for greater production. The purchase of this equipment will also enable Aramco to expand their presence in other industries and will allow the company to draw on work from outside of their immediate area, ensuring growth for years to come. Proceeds of our $95,000 loan, which we'll be participating in with Woodland Bank of Grand Rapids, will go towards the purchase of the CNC mill. It'll be collateralized with a shared first position lien on the equipment purchased with agency funding and the personal guarantee of Mr. David Henderson. This project will help to retain 3 positions and lead to the creation of 1 to 3 new jobs. With us in the audience is Mr. Dave Henderson, if there are any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Malish. Is there any questions or comments from any of the board members? Seeing none, Representative Davis makes a motion for the approval of resolution number 24-007. Is there any further discussion? With that, Lorraine will take the roll.
Senator Champion,
Aye.
Representative Davis,
Aye.
Senator Eichhorn,
Aye.
Senator Farnsworth.
Aye.
Senator Housechild,
Aye.
Representative Eichhorn,
Aye.
Representative Lister. Aye. Representative Strava.
Aye.
We have 8 ayes.
Anyway, with that, the motion prevails. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is resolution number 24-008. Again, staff presenting Mr. Chauvin and Mr. Malish.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Given the magnitude of the next project that Mr. Rukavina introduced for us, and for the benefit of board members, I'd first like to take the liberty to describe a little bit our history with Highway 35 and the process that led up to having the project presented at this morning's board meeting. After this brief introduction, I will ask Ryan Malich to present some general details on the project from the board materials. And finally, I'll get into some detail on the draft term sheet that has been provided to you at the table. The agency was approached this past May by the Highway 35 principals looking for assistance in identifying space within our service territory to retrofit into a cannabis cultivation and manufacturing operation. The company was specifically looking for an existing building with an eye on getting product to market in the most expeditious manner possible. Early on, we made the determination that the project made sense in our area, began to do preliminary due diligence on the individuals in the fledgling industry in Minnesota. After considering several properties throughout our service territory, for the reasons the commissioner described, Highway 35 decided to focus on the building in Grand Rapids that had previously housed the Ainsworth board plant, based on the size of the building available and the infrastructure at the site. In July, we received an application, stepped up our due diligence process in late July, along with representatives of the Grand Rapids City and Grand Rapids EDA. We visited Kansas City, where we saw several related operations that included the cultivation, manufacture of products, and also the retail aspects, though there will be no retail involved with this project that's here for consideration of the industry. In August, a formal high-level proposal was put forth, laying out our potential financial incentives of the agency and our partners, including the state, deed, the city of Grand Rapids, and Itasca County. The proposal was well received by Highway 35, and we followed that up with the draft term sheet that gets into more detail on the proposed transaction, a copy of which is bumped at your spot at the board table. Only after we had a handshake agreement on loan terms outlined in the proposal and had gotten to a point in our ongoing due diligence process was the decision made to bring the project forward for your consideration this morning. On October 10th, the project was presented to our technical advisory committee of the agency. The TAC is a group of local development professionals who make recommendations to the commissioner and board on the economic viability of proposed agency projects that the agency wishes to pursue. The TAC unanimously recommended approval of the project as presented. That brings us today. With that, I'd ask Ryan Malich to present details on the project that are included in the packet.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, the next project is a $10 million direct loan to Highway 35 LLC. With recent legalization of cannabis for adult use in the state of Minnesota, there's a significant opportunity to establish a state-of-the-art cannabis cultivation and manufacturing facility. Highway 35 aims to capitalize on this burgeoning market by acquiring the necessary equipment and infrastructure to cultivate premium cannabis strains and manufacture a diverse range of high-quality cannabis products using extracted cannabis oils. While Highway 35 may be officially new in its current form, their journey in the cannabis industry dates back several years. Its founders have been actively involved in the legal cannabis industry in Missouri, operating both manufacturing, transportation, and retail establishments. It's this wealth of experience and unwavering commitment to excellence that forms the foundation upon which this new venture is built. The company has purchased a Voyager Capital site, also known as the former Ainsworth site in Grand Rapids, and will be creating this new facility inside of the current building footprint. The project will move forward in two phases. In phase one, the company will develop 112,000 square feet of space devoted to cultivation purposes, including up to 30,000 square feet of flowering canopy. This area will be equipped with LED grow lights, HVAC systems, and automated nutrient delivery systems to optimize plant growth, health, and yield. The goal of cultivation operations is to grow a diverse range of premium cannabis strains that meet the highest quality standards. Phase 1 also includes 31,000 square feet devoted to the creation of a state-of-the-art manufacturing center, where advanced extraction methods will be employed to obtain high quality cannabis oils to be used in cannabis-infused products. Products manufactured using the extracted oils include edibles, beverages, tinctures, topicals, and pre-rolls. Phase 1 also includes 14,000 square feet of space for logistical purposes. Phase 2 of the project includes the development of approximately 98,000 square feet of space devoted to cultivation purposes, including an additional 30,000 square feet of flowering canopy, and the development of ancillary space in the facility. Proceeds of the agency's $10 million direct loan will be used to obtain furniture, fixtures, and equipment for both phases of the project, and will be collateralized by a first priority lien on all furniture, fixtures, and equipment of the project, and the personal guarantee of Mr. Jack Mitchell. Agency funding is contingent on the successful acquisition of necessary permits and licenses, and the borrower demonstrating that the project is fully funded. Throughout all phases, the project will maintain strict compliance with Minnesota's cannabis regulations and guidelines to ensure legal and ethical operations. Legal experts will be engaged to navigate the complex regulatory landscape, securing all necessary licenses, permits, and approvals for legal operations, while maintaining meticulous records in compliance with tax and reporting requirements. Additionally, the project will prioritize sustainability initiatives, incorporating energy-efficient lighting and HVAC systems to reduce energy consumption, implementing waste reduction and recycling programs to minimize environmental impact, and exploring sustainable packaging options and eco-friendly production practices. I'd like to again note that this project consists of cultivation and manufacturing products. This project does not involve retail sales to consumers and is contingent on Highway 35 successfully securing all necessary licenses, permits, and approvals for operation. Mr. Chair, Director Schoberg will now walk through the details of the term sheet with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I would just like to kind of go through, just touch on the high points of the term sheet. I'd be happy to sit here and get into discussion all day long with you over it, but if I may, I'll just touch on some of the high points. The sources of funds, 10 million is from the DJJ corpus, and then there's also another 10 million that will come from the 21st Century 21st Century Fund, and that'll be through an interagency agreement between the agency and Deed. As we mentioned, the project is on the former Ainsworth site. We touched on the size of Mr. Mulch did phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is anticipated to create approximately 200 direct full-time employees with a capital budget of about $34 million. Phase 2, which would be another cultivation center and development of ancillary space, would create an additional 200 jobs, and the capital budget for that is approximately 30 million. The difference being the big difference being that the acquisition of the property, which is obviously included in phase 1. Construction period, basically, once they get going, it's anticipated, hope to have licenses in hand by the end of the second quarter of 2024 next year. Construction renovation will commence very shortly after that, with the hope to complete and be in operation by December 31 of 24 or very shortly thereafter. Per the terms of our discussions, they'll have 2 years once they commence phase 1 to complete the construction of that. Phase 2 would begin sometime after phase 1, obviously. They'd also have 2 years to complete that. Prior to financial closing, the borrower will must demonstrate that they have funding in place to complete the project. Specifically, phase one, they'd have to show that they have funding in place for phase one, and likewise for phase two, if they move on to that, assuming they move on to that. Basically, the loan is for 10 years. Tranche A, which would be phase one, is a 10 years from the amortization. Tranche B, which would be for phase two, would be a 15-year loan. The interest rate on the loan would currently be, I expect it'll be 4%, which is 1% less than US government securities of the similar maturity. The forgivable portion, the forgiveness portion, should they hit 150 employees at the 5th anniversary, or have maintained 150 employees for the year leading up to the 5th anniversary, they'd be eligible for a total of 5 million in forgiveness. Another 5 million at the 10th anniversary, should they have attained 175 employees. And finally, 5 million would be eligible for forgiveness out of tranche B or phase two, should they hit 350 employees. The other 5 million will be amortized once we release the funds, and once phase two would be completed, and they'll make regular payments on that going forward. Other than that, Mr. Mullins touched on the security. A lot of this is pretty much legal language. I do want to point out, and both the commissioner and Ryan touched on, but no funds are released prior to Highway 35 obtaining their licenses. With that, we'd open it up for questions. Mr. Jack Mitchell, the CEO of Highway 35, is in attendance, along with Mr. Dane Brower and Mr. John Hyduk.
Thank you, Mr. Schobert. With that, we'll open up the board for any comments or questions. Representative Davis.
Well, thank you, Chair. Haven't been on the board very long, but this is our first challenge on the IRRR board. And this subject is definitely not without controversy. But you know, I've heard a lot about how we're just coming at this from a business perspective. This is just about the business, and I can't come at it from that perspective, and I'm going to tell you why. My life personally, and I can't separate my personal conscience from this subject that we're voting on here today, this proposal. And that's not the representative that people elected in my district to do that. From the age of 17 to 24, I myself was addicted to this drug, marijuana. That's what we're talking about here today. And marijuana is a highly addictive drug. I know that from personal experience. Well, down me, it's legal. Yeah, I realize that. I had a front row seat to it becoming legalized in the state of Minnesota, down at the state capitol. That's not the issue for me. I worked at Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge. For those of you that don't know, that is a faith-based drug and alcohol treatment center. I worked there for over 12 years as a program coordinator, then leading up the aftercare department for a few years, and then finally being a chaplain before I went on to be a pastor. And I saw for 12 years at Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge that this highly addictive drug destroys lives. It destroys families. It really does. The only reason why I got free from this highly addictive drug was because at the age of 24, this former atheist and person who hated religion came to know Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. I came to know the living God, and through that I found the ability and the power to step away from this highly addictive drug. Why am I sharing this all with you? Because I want you to know exactly where I'm coming from, because I'll never hide where I'm coming from. I cannot separate my vote from my conscience. I can't do that. I've spoke with other representatives about it, and they encourage, and senators, and they encourage me to do the same, former senators as well. I spoke with former Senator Paul Gazelka over this issue, and he said, Ben, just share your story, why you cannot support this project. That's what you need to do, be honest with people. And that is the kind of legislator I'm always going to be. I cannot separate my vote from my conscience. And I don't expect anybody else to either. And I don't condemn anyone. I don't condemn anyone who has a different vote on this proposal than I do today. Because we're the ones that got to sleep with our votes at night. And so I don't condemn anybody who disagrees with my vote or has a different vote with me today. But that's where I'm coming from. And that's why I will be voting no on this project today. And I understand it's legal, and I will never stand in the way of a business wanting to do something that's legal to prosper themselves, because I'm absolutely for free market capitalism. But that does not mean I need to put my stamp of approval on this, taking $10 million of people's money, of government money, and putting it towards basically subsidizing this industry. I want to thank the IRRR for their hard work that they have. I know how much work you've put forth in putting together this proposal. Keep up the good work. You're hardworking folks. Thank you. And I thank you for the information that you've given us on this proposal as well. So with that, I'm done.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Scott, you were next.
Yeah. The guy that sits next to Ben on the floor, and when I did vote for the marijuana, I still get to hold his child. So we don't let it get to us. I mean, it is what it is. When this issue came forward, my biggest concern was, wow, that's a lot of money. You know, it's a lot of money. And then I've had constituents call me that want to invest with this. They're like, you're gonna vote for that, right? Because we want to invest it. This is Minnesota. And again, I look at it like it's a farming product, you know, and how many times can we invest in farming before we say, okay, that's enough? So first group through the chute, you know, it's like, hey, we're looking at a $40 million investment. And our portion is about 20 million plus with this, I noticed we had a tax increment financing and things like that go through that. So you get about 22 million on a $67 million project. So total. And I have people saying, you know, how do I get to invest with them? Because you guys are it's a publicly traded company, or if it's not, it's private, you're gonna look for investors. So I'm looking at this from, it is a legal business. And I caution myself, if 20 of these show up saying, hey, we want the money too, we want the deal, I can promise you that it would be very difficult to fund 20 at this level, because it's in my world, I would call it saturation. It's no different than if 20 mining companies came and said, hey, we need help starting a mining company. 20 logging companies saying, we need, it's like, hey, wait a minute, we can't do it all, but we could do some. And I'm encouraged. What really gets me encouraged about this project is it is not a nonprofit. So you're going to be paying property taxes in the city of Grand Rapids, the city water, the city sewer, and the power. All big pluses. A former mayor, those are what make everyone else's rates balanced. You know, we don't have to worry about sharp peaks in that because you have a bigger customer that helps the little ones. So I'm encouraged for that. I see that where you're going. And the size of the project, the repurposing of the buildings. I did meet with staff on last Friday, And, you know, some of my concerns were, you know, what's the money going to, you know, it's going into equipment. So if the equipment, if it does have some failure, if this doesn't work, we have access to that equipment. And in the state of Minnesota, and you know, I voted for the bill. I don't know exactly what it said because it was that big. But I believe there's something in there that says you have to grow the product in the state. So whether it's grown here or in Laverne or Grand Forks, it's gonna get grown. And they're anticipating between a $1 and $2 billion business. So somewhere along this line, we need to step in and try to get some diversify our economy. I do also like the fact that the wages are somewhere between $20 and $60 an hour, you know, different rates. That's encouraging. Again, these are all positives for me, and I do, Ben, I do hear you, Lima Charlie, loud and clear. I get that, and I respect that, and there are constituents out there saying the same thing. How can you support that? It was illegal, and you know, look what it does to people. And again, when I voted to legalize it, there were a lot of discussions. A lot of my constituents use it for pain management, and now it's going to be made here in Minnesota, in northern Minnesota. And I was encouraged again that the gummies are going to be made here. There's going to be product from here. And I was worried that it was going to be kind of like our taconite mines where we ship the pellets away and then the steel gets made. If we shipped all the oil away and nothing got made, I would feel like, wow, you know, here we are in that same position again. We're making it, but we're not getting the other end product out of it. So that the gummies are being made here and then they will be sold in the state. That's encouraging to me because the product stays within. The circles just keep making bigger. So there's a lot of things that I think are good about this. It's not that hard for me to look at this project and say, it's a community that voted for it. I believe there are letters of, so it's not that hard for me to look at this one and say, let's move forward. So.
Thank you, Representative Scott. Senator Eichler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll start with a couple of questions before I make some comments. Probably going to be for Mr. Schulberg, or if you want to pass off to the company, that's certainly fine as well. One of the first things I wrote down here was in order to get some of these loans forgiven, they need to get either to 150 or 175 employees respectively. We were promised 400 jobs. Why not 400?
Mr. Scheller.
Mr. Chair, Senator Eichhorn, that's part of the incremental to have phase one, which is 200 jobs. For them to earn their full forgiveness on that, they would have to get to 150 for the first 5 million in forgiveness, and then to 175. So when we structure these, particularly on these forgivable, I mean, if they do reach their targets, they've created the vast number of jobs, and we want to structure it for success. So should they lose several employees at the end of a reporting period, it doesn't put them into a spot where they wouldn't be eligible for it.
Mr. Chair, so for me, that's a lot less than the number of jobs promised. I don't know what the incentive is to get to 200 or to 400. And from other individuals I talked to, I've spent the last about 3 weeks talking to players in the industry and other government officials and just community members from an email we sent out. There's a lot of people in the industry that don't believe we're going to get to 200 to 400 jobs. And so that's why this concerns me a little bit on the money front, that we're going to forgive it for 150 employees. That incentive isn't there to get to the 200 to the 400 employees. The next question I have is on the interest rate. And I know we've done at the agency lower interest rates. You said 4%. And that's a, percent or whatever above what some government bonds are right now.
Yeah, percent below government securities.
Percent below, excuse me. Kind of the average going rate right now is pushing 8%.
Sure.
Why are we not charging 8%? Why are we writing this down, so to speak? I mean, any individual doesn't come to the IRRR for money, they go get money somewhere else, they're gonna pay 8%. Why aren't we charging them what I would consider maybe more of a market rate?
Mr. Schubert.
Mr. Chair, Senator Icorn, we are in the incentive business. So the 4% that's the policy of the agency on direct loans. We offer 1% less than government securities of similar maturities.
Okay.
On participation loans, like the one that we just approved, it's 3% less than.
And I understand that in certain situations.
Sorry, don't mind. Deputy Commissioner, let's jump in on.
Serving my council role today, so thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator Icorn, I just wanted to mention that we have the authority to offer that kind of a loan rate through statute Minnesota statute 298.292 subdivision 2 provides us with the authority to offer lower market rates. So I just wanted to be clear that we got the legislative authority many years ago to do that.
And I think it's okay that we have the legislative authority to do that, and in certain cases that makes sense, but just because we can do it doesn't mean we necessarily should. And in an industry like this, where other players in the industry from other states where this has already been legalized, basically said this is like printing money. And I've had other people that I've spoken to that said, let them do it, just don't give them government money to do it. They don't need the government money to do it, and that's not on you. And like you said, Mr. Schoberg, to the piece of, we need to give an incentive. We're an incentive-based kind of organization, and I agree with that, but isn't the incentive hiring 150 employees to get this money written off kind of an incentive? So I struggle with that piece of it as well. The next question I have that's probably going to be for agency staff, and then the one after that will probably be for the company, might have to answer it. But we've seen what kind of feedback we got from tribal entities when a large entity was trying to come to our area, and there was a lot of pushback. Have you guys gone to the tribes with this? Do any of the tribal entities surrounding kind of the Itasca County area, whether it be Leech Lake or other tribal entities, have they had any knowledge of this, any discussion? Have they had any input?
Mr. Schubert.
Mr. Chair, Senator Icorn, I guess I would defer to Commissioner Rukavina to answer that question.
Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair Igo. Senator Igo, you asked if we have gone to the tribes. I can't speak for the company, so I don't know the answer to that part of things, but I guess the history with the former job and the reasons for that failure was that tribes weren't consulted right away. And this industry and this business, our understanding is that it is in a former site and it's not greatly impacting tribal treaty rates. So we have not specifically gone to bring them in advance for this private company.
Based on what we just went through with Huber, I think that probably would be prudent to do that sooner than later, because we certainly could have a potential problem. And I'll ask that to the company, whoever wants to. Have you guys spoken with any of the tribal entities?
As a matter of fact, we've been having extensive conversations with Fond du Lac, and then my partner John's had a lot of conversations with Leech Lake.
Okay.
We've done a major outreach. Some of the consultants that we got involved to help Fond du Lac stand up their operations are people we've worked with for years. So we've been providing a massive amount of technical advice in terms of construction of their facility. And we had several of the tribal representatives were in our offices a few weeks ago for Fond du Lac. So we have an ongoing effort and outreach to the tribes to ensure that we can provide as much assistance and address as many questions or issues as they may have. Now, you might speak to your conversation with Leech Lake, John.
Sure, I've been one conversation, trying to set up, some meetings. It was very positive and very open about potential partnerships. But really haven't gotten, to great detail with that. Through our association activity, we did have many tribal groups at our association event a few weeks ago.
Thank you, Mr. Henry, Mr. Mitchell, Senator Igo.
Next question would be on the licensing front. Another thing that concerns me about encumbering, and maybe this is a question for Mr. Schoberg to start with, I appreciate that you structured it in such a way where they're not gonna get some of this money unless they've received a permit. That's a positive thing. But this money, I assume, is still encumbered. It sits on our balance sheet as being gone, it's set aside for this company, is that correct?
Mr. Schumer.
Mr. Chair, Senator Icorn, that is correct, and very similar to really any of the development projects that we bring forth, and they do have a hard stop on 2 years to begin construction of phase one. So i.e. they would have to be licensed once we have a close.
Senator Eckert.
So this one's probably more for the company, but Mr. Schober, you're certainly welcome to answer if you prefer. If you want to hand it off, that's fine as well. And looking at this, I had the privilege in the 3 committees I serve on to hear this bill 3 times and hear the whole process of it. Based on what I've seen and what I understand, you're going to be allowed to do 30,000 square feet of flowering plants. How do you plan to do that second 30,000 square feet? The intention, I believe, is to get you guys 1 license. How are you going to get a second license to do that for the second 30,000 square feet? My understanding is also that you're going to need another license to create some of the other products you're going to create, not just the growing. How do you plan to get multiple licenses? Because this wasn't intended to be kind of a vertical integration type deal. It was intended, from what I understood in committee, for a lot of Minnesotans to be able to have an opportunity to dip into this and not 3, 4, 5 licenses going to one entity. So how do you answer that? How do you expect that you're going to get all these licenses?
Mr. Mitchell.
Senator Icorn, my only significant experience has been in Missouri. And we work with several groups there, and it's a very highly competitive licensing state. Your law is not set up, at least at this point, to be highly competitive in terms of an exact limited number of licenses. We were able, through the groups we worked with, to obtain multiple licenses in multiple areas. The only 2 licenses that we will attempt to accomplish are the manufacturing license and the cultivation license, of which we have done in the past in a very limited license state. Under the authority of the law right now, you can have up to 30,000 feet of flowering canopy. And the OCM has the authority to double that in any license category. So if they have a 30,000 square canopy, you can go to 60,000 if they approve it. If you have a 5,000, you can go to 10,000 and so forth. So the thought process is that during the first year, we had 60 cultivation licenses in Missouri. Only about 25 of them got built out in 2 years. Getting the cultivation built out is extremely difficult because of the capital requirements. A very small cultivation facility will cost you multi-millions of dollars. And these are not facilities you go out to a commercial bank and get money for. You have to find private investors. So the Minnesotans, and we used all Missouri money, as we will use largely Minnesota money for this project. It comes from generally private individuals putting equity into the business, because bank loans are just not possible in this space. So our goal is to get into business quick, take the risk of getting, and because you have this asset there, this doesn't exist in a lot of places around the state where you got plenty of power, you've got public wastewater availability, you have the infrastructure already built, because these typically are buildings inside of the buildings. So you've got a scenario where you literally could get up and operating before 90% of the market. We were able to do that in Missouri. There are only 2 operators in Missouri for the first several months. And at the end of the first year, there are only about 10. Consequently, you have extremely high prices. And we're a year into the, not a year, about 9 months into the recreational use, which we're coming here in Missouri. We still have huge product shortages. So what you're going to experience in your first year are huge shortages. And then over the next 2 to 3 years, that will come into what commercial agriculture always does. Prices will go down dramatically. So it's very important for us to get to market quickly. And then when the state is very, very tight on supply, we'll be making an application because we'll have the facility, we have all the infrastructure in place to double that canopy space. And again, we don't think that's gonna adversely affect, because we've seen it in every other state, those operators in Minnesota who have the team, who have the capital to get their projects built, and we really don't think that licenses in Minnesota are there's gonna be this huge bar in order to accomplish those licenses, at least under the legislation as it's written right now.
Senator Wright, the other question I have is on the equity piece, not equity money, equity, social equity, as they refer to it in the bill. How do you expect to meet those kind of social equity goals?
Well, Senator Icorn, that is a very, the answer to that is really not known. I can tell you sort of what we're looking at right now, because first of all, until those regulations come out, it's very difficult to have an exact interpretation of how they're going to be applied. And there's a lot of discretion right now in that law for the OCM to determine how they're going to apply that law. And if you look at social equity, it's really limited to former communities or persons who have been impacted by marijuana convictions or prohibition. And there's a lot of sort of questions about, can you have a felony when you would apply for that? So most of the people who were impacted by that in any serious matter have felonies. So until the OCM clarifies that, it's going to be hard for me to say, here's how we're going to deal with that. We are having conversations with the legacy community, which are those people, and that's a large community, and we're working closely with their leadership. And we're involved because I was head of governmental affairs for the state of Missouri. I negotiated the regulations with 3 other industry people in Missouri. I've testified in about 5 states on how the rules are applied. I'm working closely with the regulator here already. So I've been down this road for a few years in terms of how the regulatory process comes in. And as you gentlemen are going to learn, there's going to be dozens of bills come out in this next session that deal with dozens of these issues, and the industry wants to be incredibly responsible and determine how we meet the objectives of the legislature. But to predict exactly how those rules are going to apply, the only thing I can say is we will know, and we hope have some influence on those social equity rules, and we will clearly do everything humanly possible to comply with the intent of those social equity rules, so we can provide opportunities for the communities that the legislature targeted in terms of the people they want to participate in the industry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got about another half a dozen questions, but I think I'll move on. The results are already, I think, decided, and it's going to be the same either way, so I can take some of those other questions offline. So I'll just make a little bit of a couple statements here, and I agree with your sentiment that we don't know what the outlook looks here. The legislation that was passed wasn't prescriptive enough, and we're going to leave it in the hands of the Office of Cannabis Management to do rulemaking. And everybody at this table that's been here even a year knows what rulemaking in this state looks like. And it's not a fun process, it's a complete mess. And there's a lot of unknowns that will come out of that. We've seen what they've done to the mining industry. Now, hopefully they won't take that same path with your industry. And I agree with a couple things that were already said here. I agree with Representative Davis on the moral front. And I agree that you need to vote your conscience, and that's what I'm going to do today by voting no. I also agree, Representative Scruggs said, people are wondering how they can invest in this. And today, I think by the end of this meeting, the taxpayers are going to get an opportunity to invest. I'm surprised it's going to take darn near 33% of the total project cost in government money to get this thing off the ground, based on conversations I've had with other people that are in the industry in other states. Let's kind of tell you where I started with this. I voted no on the legislation as well. I thought there were a lot of issues with it. I think there are issues that should have been worked out, and this maybe should have been a 2-session type bill, so that way some of these questions could have been answered ahead of time, because there's a lot of unknowns for you or anyone else that wants to get into this industry. And that's unfortunate for you. It's unfortunate for taxpayers and constituents of ours that want to know what's going on. When I started this process, I started out as a hell no. This shouldn't happen for any reason. But then as I started listening to people, because that's one of our biggest jobs, is to listen to people. And I spent the last month listening to people. I've heard people from all sides of the arguments. I got to the point where I was open to this. After talking to enough people, I'm back to a no. Throughout this process, I almost feel like I know what it's like dealing with the cartel, because over this process, I've been threatened and harassed. That shouldn't happen to anybody. Not you personally, but it's happened in general, even by individuals in this room. I sent an email. Some of you are probably aware of that. Some of you had some frustration with that. When I initially asked, we need to have a community discussion about this, because there was a big discussion during our legislative session. If we're gonna have a facility like this and give away $23 million in government money, 22 million in government money between all entities, the public should have some input. And when I asked for that, it felt like there was a crackdown on sharing information about this. There's another company that's looking at doing the same thing, that a week after I talked to him, put a press release in the paper, and there's been a good community discussion about that. I'm also concerned that what do we spend on cannabis as an agency? It's already legal, we're gonna do this, that's fine, let people do it, but I think we need to be fair in how we do it. If there are other entities that come to this agency, are we gonna give those entities 15%? The agency spend is about not just under 15% of the total project cost. Are we gonna do the same for every entity that wants to go? What if somebody from Representative Lissagar, Scrava's district comes, or Senator Houschild's district? Are we gonna give them 15% as well? I wanna make sure that this process is gonna be fair for anyone else that wants to do it. Because regardless of my personal opinions, we have a responsibility to everybody to be fair to everybody. So I hope that other entities that come to this agency get the same attention and the same level of fairness. I also struggle with what we've given other projects. L&M Supply, great local company. We gave them money at our last meeting. We gave them $2.5 million on a $55 million project. Why didn't we give them $5 million? They're a well-known, well-respected entity that's been in our communities for generations. The other thing I struggle with on the permitting front is my understanding of the legislation was also that this was supposed to be Minnesota residents. I realize you have a Minnesota resident as a part of your board. But after this is up and running, does the money go to Missouri? Does all the money stay in our community? I realize we'll get some tax revenue. But if we give out money to people that have a vested interest in this, in our communities that have been here for generations, more of the money is going to stay here. So I struggle with that part as well. In the email blast I did out, I've had an opportunity to talk with literally hundreds, close to thousands of people, phone, email, people talking to me on the street. It was largely negative in the response. About 15% of the respondents said, yeah, go ahead and do this. Of the other response, about 50% said no. They were no for moral reasons, like Representative Davis laid out. The other 50% of those people said, you know what? And this is the same bracket I fall into. Let them do it, but don't give them any government money to do it. I'm a free market capitalist as well. I think you guys should be able to do this. Anybody that wants to do it should have an equal opportunity to do this. The process, I hope the Office of Cannabis Management sets up as a fair process so that everybody gets the same opportunity and not everybody gets, not one entity gets several licenses. I hope the process ends up being fair. I just think that, and from comments I heard, this is cart before the horse. We don't know who's going to get licenses. We don't even know what the regulatory outlook is completely going to look like yet. In my opinion, I'm not going to do it. But initially I thought, maybe we table this and continue to get additional information. I'm not going to table it today. The vote's going to be the same whether I table it or not. But I think there needs to be some additional discussion about this before we go forward. And I'm not a complete no on you doing your project. I'm certainly willing to help in other ways, but I don't think it is fiscally responsible for this agency to encumber that kind of money this early before we even know what the regulatory outlook is. So that's where I struggle. I'm not a complete no forever. I want to know more. I want more community discussion. I just don't think we're there yet. And to Representative Davis' point as well, the agency here does a hell of a job, and I'm proud of all of the work you do, not on this project, but on all the projects you work on. If every agency in the state operated the way you guys do, the state would be in better shape. So this is not a knock on you guys, just so you're aware. You guys do good work. So for many of those reasons, I'm a no today. I think this is something we can continue to work on, But quite frankly, this isn't ready for prime time yet, in my opinion, so I will be a no today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Raycon. I believe next would be Senator Farnsworth virtually.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hope you can hear me. I have a question and then I'll follow the question up with some comments if you would permit that. So my concern with this loan has to do with the collateral. Looking at the package, the collateral is mostly going to be the equipment. And I don't know about everybody else that's in that particular room, but I'm not really interested in the agency taking possession of a bunch of used grow equipment if this doesn't pan out. And this is a new industry, so there's no guarantee that it's going to pan out. And so in the discussions that I've had with folks, I've heard a couple of different options. And one of the options I heard actually was years ago when the agency loaned money to SR, they required that SR take out a bond so that if that project failed, the agency would be made whole. And as the story was told to me, when that project went into bankruptcy, then Commissioner Mark Phillips hopped on a plane, flew to New York and cashed in that bond so that the agency was made whole. Was that considered in this project? And if it was considered, why did we decide that we'd rather have used equipment as collateral?
Mr. Schober.
Certainly, Mr. Chair, Senator Farnsworth. First, the first part of the question, we do believe as this industry is being stood up in Minnesota that if there is a failure, and we certainly don't believe that there will be, but if there is, it would be early on, and there would be a high demand for this type of equipment as other operators are looking to get into the business. In the second part, mentioning actually with Esser, there were 2 letters of credit that were securing that loan. And in that case, those letters of credit, as it went, the business was sold from the previous owners of Minnesota Steel to Esser. We had interest in the minerals that Minnesota Steel owned, that partners in the Minnesota Steel venture owned. And with Esser, we didn't have those minerals. So we agreed to the transfer of the loan with additional collateral, which is actually cash. And that is correct that then Commissioner Phillips, along with now Deputy Commissioner Betchka, went to New York to cash in the letter of credit with the Bank of India, and I went to Hibbing to cash the other letter of credit in.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schober. Senator Farnsworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The agency over the years when I was a kid, I remember the chopsticks factory that I believe the agency got stuck with. I remember SR or Excelsior Energy. So we've had some big misses, not a whole lot of home runs. And so I'm concerned. $10 million is a lot of money to invest in a new industry. And I think like everybody else that's spoken today, I've really struggled with this because we definitely want jobs. We want good paying jobs. But I'm kind of with a couple of the other folks on the committee. This is a free market sort of idea. We don't need to use public money to support an industry that up until now we have said isn't something that we even want to encourage. A lot of people maybe don't know, other than today, because I'm home with the flu. Other than today, I walk into Hibbing High School every day and there's banners and there's signs that say Blue Jackets don't use drugs and alcohol. And my kids are all in basketball and baseball, and I spend a lot of time in schools all over my district, and I see signs that say, Spartans don't use drugs and alcohol, or Thunderhawks don't use drugs and alcohol. And yet it feels to me like the agency is using public money to encourage something that we're then telling our kids, well, you probably shouldn't do this. Again, I tend to lean libertarian on this issue. If somebody, it's legal. If somebody wants to smoke a joint in their basement, that's none of my business, as long as they're not driving a car. But I really struggle with using public money to support this industry. And so, like Senator Eichhorn and Representative Davis, I will be a no on this vote. And it's not a free market. No, it's a no, that I don't think this is where we should spend public dollars. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Senator Farnsworth. Anyone else?
Bobby? Senator Champion, anyone?
No further discussion. I'll make some kind of closing comments. First off, I want to appreciate again all the hard work by the commissioner and the agency on this project. I know it's been a lot. There's been a lot of work going on, a lot of community engagement. Thank you again for all you do. There's some great things said about the agency. We can't say enough great things. Next, I want to just talk about what the project offers. Obviously, there's been a very vibrant discussion on both sides of the issue today. And I've been doing my roles to try and hear from both sides as much as possible. But there's some things, and I think we have some wonderful letters of support here that kind of outline one of the reasons why this project is going to be a good fit for the Northland and the Iron Range communities. When you have a county, a chamber of commerce, a city, and a local economic development all coming together unanimously to support a project like this, that's something that I'm going to listen to and I'm going to look at. I'm going to want to vet out even more. I've had dozens of conversations over the past couple months with people all over our communities here in Northland, from the greater Grand Rapids area all the way over to Hibbing, all the way over to Virginia, trying to gauge whether or not this is something that communities would support, because that was my biggest concern, right? If a project like this is going to come to our area, what's it going to mean? And that overall support where people are looking at it and saying, Spencer, the cork's out of the bottle. We want to see it at the table. The way I see this project in front of us today is that this is giving Northern Minnesota a seat at the table of a new industry. That when we look at rulemaking moving forward, it'll be good to know that we have an industry that's going to represent our values and our beliefs down at St. Paul on this issue. And we're not going to be left behind in the dust. That I know many in this room feel like we do on many of the issues that have happened, especially this last year in St. Paul. This opportunity gives us that chance. Apart from the fact it's 400 jobs. In a county that's frankly looking at an energy transition and needs tax base like no other. That saw the second highest property tax increase in the state of Minnesota last year. 29%. 400 jobs and over $60 million invested into this county and these communities is incredibly important. And I guess too, in closing with that, when you look at the way that we can do this, if you remove the fact that this project is marijuana, you looked at any other manufacturing thing, every person in this room, every person across the range would support it. And I think we need to look at what's moved forward. The conversation about marijuana, I know we have many different opinions on. People can be on this side of it, that side of it, in the middle. I personally voted no on the legalization of marijuana. The reason being there's a lot of questions left unanswered. However, looking at this project now in front of us, cork's out of the bottle, as was said. Marijuana is now legal in Minnesota, will be moving forward. So what are we going to do now? I'm not going to be someone that's going to want to stop it. And I applaud all the community's efforts moving forward on this, because now we have an opportunity to be represented. We have an opportunity to work on the legislation and the issues that there are with it as communities that now have a vested interest in. That means we're going to be represented in our values, and we can get a bill that not only just works for the greater Twin Cities Metro, which is where this project will go if we don't make investments like this today. The Iron Range can take a step at leading, and apart from just this project, there's multiple other things that the agency's been working on. This is all coming in tandem for, I think, what northeastern Minnesota, the range is seeing as a snowball effect. It's projects like these and the other things that we're working, we're this close to start rolling down that hill and really getting our region to economic prosperity. And that's something that I'm very excited for, and very excited for this project. So I will be supporting it today. And I look forward to following it along the process. And listening to the community as the concerns come up, because there will be, and there's going to be issues with that legislation, but that's one that we can tackle as one range, one community, and as one board and one agency. So with that, I'll look for a motion, move to a vote. So Senator Halshaw moved for a motion, and with that, Lorraine, please take the roll.
Senator Champion,
Aye.
Representative Davis,
No.
Senator Eichhorn,
No.
Senator Farnsworth,
No.
Senator Housechild,
Aye.
Representative Igo,
Aye.
Representative Listegar,
Aye.
Representative Strava.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes and 3 noes.
With that, the motion prevails. Thank you. All right, moving to the next item on the agenda will be resolution number 24-009. Staff presenting will be Ms. Ridland and Ms. Garcia.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. My name is Whitney Redlon, Director of Community Development here at the agency. Today before you, you have 3 community and development infrastructure projects. Just for some context, the purpose of development infrastructure grants are to assist with infrastructure projects that support business development. And the purpose of community infrastructure grants are to assist projects that support residential infrastructure and public facility improvements. The economic impact of the 3 projects include an agency investment of $457,000 with a total project investment of $2,768,000. With that, I'll hand it over to my colleague Chris to provide additional summaries of each project.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'd just like to say, you guys do matter, everybody left, but hey. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the board. The first project is a development infrastructure project, City of Gilbert. The requested amount $200,000. The project consists of infrastructure, site work, and road construction. The city provided a parcel of land to approve plumbing to construct a new 3,600 square foot plumbing and heating services center. By extending sewer and water utilities and constructing a highway access point, the city has the potential for an additional commercial development on 30 acres of land. The project is expected to create 5 permanent jobs and 4 construction jobs. Second project for your consideration, City of Ely requests $108,000. Project consists of infrastructure and site work for the housing construction. Voyager and North Outfitters recently purchased 2 parcels of land from the city with plans to construct 5 cabins and 3 fully electric RV sites. The rental cabins can serve as workforce tourism or student housing. The project is expected to create 2 permanent jobs and 8 construction jobs. In the final project for consideration, community infrastructure, city hitting grant requested amount of $149,000. Project consists of lining existing residential sewer lines between Highway 169 and 37th Street. These sewer lines were constructed between 1948 and 1953, and they're failing. The sanitary sewers were constructed using plate tile pipe, and over time they become very brittle. Many of the joints have become offset, and there are many areas of pipe that have longitudinal and lateral cracking. The new lining will extend the life of the infrastructure. Project is expected to create valuable construction jobs. I'll entertain any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Ismail. Is there any questions or comments from members of the board? Thank you again for bringing a good list of projects for us today. I think that no questions or comments speak for themselves when we straightforward projects like these. With that, Representative Scott makes a motion to approve the resolution. With that, Lorraine, please take the roll.
Senator Champion,
Aye.
Representative Davis,
Aye.
Senator Icorn,
Aye.
Senator Farnsworth,
Aye.
Senator Housechild. Aye. Representative Igo,
Aye.
Representative Listener,
Aye.
Representative Strava.
Aye.
We have 8 ayes and 0 noes.
Okay. All right, thank you, Lorraine. With that, the motion. Thank you. The last item on the agenda is resolution number 24-010. Staff presenting Mr. Klein. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, there are 6 regional trail projects today with a total agency investment of $1,019,650. and a total project investment of $3,822,649. The first project is from the city of Iwabic for $28,500. The project consists of constructing a paved trail within the city of Iwabic Park and 2 separate paved services to accommodate ADA accessible picnic tables. This project was initiated by the East Range Rotary Club and the Iwabic Area Civic Association. The next grant is from the city of Chisholm for $500,000. This project consists of creating a master plan for the future expansion of Redhead Mountain Bike Park and establishing Chisholm connectivity. The construction of Chisholm bike lanes and other in-town amenities, upgrading Redhead Mountain Bike Park, equipment purchases, and meeting the overall goal of establishing Chisholm as a destination bike town. The next grant is from Crow Wing County in the amount of $110,000. The project consists of expanding trails and recreational opportunities at the Milford Mine Memorial Park. Proposes to build an additional 1.2 miles of walking trails, 1,200 feet of boardwalk and a pier. The new trails will include interpretive signs that educates the public and describes mining operations, former mining operations at the site. The next grant is from the Iron Range Tourism Bureau in the amount of $100,000. The project consists of funding a grant program for trail and trail amenity projects that is managed by the IRTB in cooperation with the grants committee from the Northern St. Louis County Trails Task Force. The grant fund has awarded 48 previous grants since 2020 for ATV, snowmobiling, cycling, mountain biking, hiking, cross-country skiing, and horseback trail related projects. The next grant is from Northern Lights Nordic Ski Club in the amount of $31,150. The project consists of purchasing 2 snowmobiles, 1 ATV, and a trailer to help groom and maintain their various ski trails. Northern Lights Nordic Ski Club was established in 1991, and they are responsible for grooming and maintaining 8 area ski trails in Itasca County. And the last grant request is from the city of Virginia in the amount of $250,000. The project consists of constructing a floating trail on the southeast side of Silver Lake near the Public Utilities Building. The new trail will provide a unique experience for users and alleviate existing trail safety hazards. This is the final phase of this project, and it's located in the heart of the city of Virginia and adjacent to downtown businesses, residential neighborhoods, schools, and other city amenities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Any questions or comments on the board? Just one. Senator.
I'm looking at the Crow Wing County request, and you mentioned that this path would have some interpretive information that educates the public and describes mining. I think that's great. I think we should do that on more of these. I'm just curious whose interpretation we're going to use, because obviously there's some folks that interpret mining in a very negative light, and obviously those of us in this room interpret it in a very positive light.
Yes.
So I'm just kind of curious what that would look like.
I would suspect it would be in a very positive light. Of course, this is the site of the worst mining disaster in the state of Minnesota, where in 1924, 41 miners died.
And that's part of the reason I asked that question, is it could very easily be painted in a very negative light in this way. The other question, do we still put the little signs that say, this project funded by tax dollars? Do we still do it? Okay. That's all I have.
Any further questions or comments? With that, Senator Eichhorn moves resolution 24-010. With that, we're going to take the roll.
Senator Campion,
Aye.
Representative Davis,
Aye.
Senator Eichhorn,
Aye.
Senator Gardner,
Aye.
Senator Hofstadter. Aye. Representative Eigel,
Aye.
Representative Lister,
Aye.
Representative Strava.
Aye.
We have 8 ayes and 0 noes.
Thank you. With that, the motion is approved. With that, I'm just gonna I'll make some closing remarks. Thank you again, to everyone today for today's meeting, making the time in your schedule. I know we are looking at having our next board meeting in December. So we'll be sending out some information on that, kind of alert board, everything while you're sitting at home. With that, if there's any further questions or comments or board business that needs to be brought up? Seeing none, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone.
There is a gentleman that tries to talk to us. A rocket guy that wants to talk to the board. You guys actually- Do you have any appetite for? No.